everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Straight Talk with me, Anukriti Sharma. Kangana Ranaut, she has her film coming up, but her film is in a state of limbo. On the 8th of July, Manikarnika Films, let me tell you, that's the label which is owned by Miss Ranaut. So Manikarnika Films submitted an application to the Central Board for Film Certification. They claim that they got an email on the 14th of August saying that the CBFC certification had come through and that the movie was successfully sealed, requesting the producers to collect the certificate. But they claim that when they went to the office, the same was not provided to them. So nobody really knows what's going on, but the buzz seems to be that this film has been indefinitely postponed, potentially till after the Haryana elections, because they don't want a law and order situation in Delhi, Punjab, and Haryana, and elsewhere, wherever it could happen. Is this fair? Kangana Ranaut is crying foul. She says, "Meri film emergency pe emergency lag gayi hai." And this is really a battle between freedom of expression on one side and the right to offend or hurt, or the concern that people could get offended and that it could lead to a potential law and order situation in the country. And to talk about this, today I am joined on this particular broadcast by Dr. Viveik Pandit ji. Dr. Viveik Pandit ji is a renowned author. He is also a renowned management guru, a professor at a renowned management institute here in Lucknow. And I would like to welcome him on my show.
Absolutely.
And here we have Dr. Viveik Pandit joining us once again for this straight talk. So I'm going to get right into the discussion with you. We know there's a lot of hue and cry surrounding this movie Emergency right now. It was supposed to release yesterday. It obviously did not release. Some of us have seen the trailer. A lot of us have not even seen the trailer. Forget about the movie. But the humorous situation which exists in the country right now is that we have so much to say about the movie. We are literally fighting over the movie. We are at loggerheads about the movie without having seen any of the content yet. We have a lot to say. This is a pretty humorous situation for me. So I want to get right into this discussion with you. This is something I want to talk about. Where do you think, in light of the concern that there could be a law and order problem, in light of the concern that there are elections in Haryana and that the Sikh bodies have taken a very strong position that if the film were to be released now, passions could get surcharged, there could be protests on the streets, and therefore everybody across the political spectrum of the country should be careful. So my question to you is very straightforward. Probably it's not okay to trust the collective wisdom of the society by and large. It's probably better to impose a ban on the film for now and then maybe push its release to a later date. Is this a right call, or do you think that it's a completely wrong call? With whatever cuts are required, the modifications are required, the film should be given a certificate and that it should be allowed to release. What is your take on this matter, sir?
Anukriti, first things first, thank you so much for inviting me over for your show. It is always a pleasure to hold conversations with you. And unfortunately, fortunately, we are discussing something which honestly I feel we shouldn't be discussing at all. And honestly, another point, I have not watched even the trailer, but I definitely have strong views on this. And, uh, you know, time will always judge us by the way we treated history. And we are supposed to learn from history. We are supposed to present history as it was. And it doesn't take much to understand that emergency was imposed in our nation. It was done way back, almost 50 years back. But the reality is that India did see emergency for good, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 18, 19 months. So, that is a reality. And here we have a lady who has presented not her story, but she has relived those moments, playing the chief protagonist, Mrs. Indira Gandhi in this case. God bless her soul. But what she has done, she has used her creative liberty to present to us, this generation, facts about history. So I know we are a very charged nation. We are full of passions, and we tend to take our politics and our religion very seriously. But the fact remains that we all are one of the oldest civilization. We all are cultured, evolved human beings, and we've got to respect the wisdom of people here. So I think it is the leadership, a leadership of a nation, who should actually stand up and put a rest to such rubbish talks of violence breaking out. This is election time. What is this? You are treating us like kids, as if we are kids on the run. uh, Leadership has to come out and to issue stern warnings. I think that is the way we handle a country. That is the way we handle a nation. We are a matured nation. We can take certain things on our chest, and we are talking about certain things which actually existed, which are the truth. So honestly, I think this entire episode is laughable. The entire controversy which has been created is, um, it's a smoke which will just blow away after a while. But I think issues are used in my country to create stoke passions, and emergency movie has become another cog in the wheel, as they say, another scapegoat, another reason to hit back at the system, or to destabilize it, to create confusion, nothing else.
So, building on your point, it was rather a tragic scene even last month when we had the Kolkata rape murder. Instead of working collectively, both the ruling party and the opposition, instead of working collectively to ensure empathy for the victim's family and above all to ensure justice, uh, fast track justice for the victim's family, instead of focusing on that, what we saw was that the leader of the ruling party was out there on the streets, walking at the front of the protests, asking for capital punishment for the accused in 10 days, something which is absolutely impractical, and none of the fast track courts can do that. Let's face the reality. Marches, protests, walking in front of them, we could see Mamta Banerjee creating a scene like that. We also saw leaders from the opposition parties using that opportunity to bring somebody down, demanding resignation of the chief minister. However, we found not a single party working diligently towards fast track justice for the victim's family, above and all. That was a tragic situation, too. And this one, however, like you pretty well put it across, this is a laughable situation where we have left all the pertinent matters at hand. We are not focusing on the important issues which need to be addressed, but here we are sitting together on benches discussing a movie which has not even seen the light of the day. Barely half of the country has seen the trailer, and we are already discussing it, arguing it, and biting each other's heads off. and not focusing on the important matters which really matter. So, pretty much like you are, I am a free speech absolutist too. The CBFC has got just one job, and that is to provide a certificate. It could be a U, an A, or a U/A. Who are we to demand any cuts? Who are we to demand any modifications? And we are always going to be a polarized nation. And let's, for a moment, keep India aside. If we look at any nation across the board, societies are always going to be polarized, sir. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's always going to be a right wing, there's always going to be a left, there's always going to be a boy and a girl, there's always going to be something objectionable for you, which might not be objectionable for me. There's always going to be a Modi and a Rahul Gandhi. We shall always be polarized. Who are we to play gods? What is religious, what is not religious, what is pornographic, what is not pornographic? Who gets to decide at the end of the day? I, as a journalist, have a lot of respect for the people of India. I feel they're so intelligent. They're far more intelligent than what we give them credit for. And why can't this decision be left to the collective wisdom, maturity, and the intelligence of the masses? Why are we deciding to impose a ban on a piece of art, which is cinema, for the rest of the country? Why are we doing this? We, the democracy, we, the people, for the people, by the people, all that jazz that we speak about, where has that suddenly gone today? And here we are, keeping the important matters which need to be addressed aside and discussing a piece of art which hasn't even seen the light of the day. Why are we doing it? Or rather, how did we reach such a situation in this country, sir? One of the largest democracies in the world.
Well put, Anukriti. I just love the fact that you take your journalism with just the right intent. And I love the courage that you always display in whatever you speak. So you're so right. We call ourselves one of the biggest, one of the largest democracies in the world. And we cannot simply treat every event like a cricket match. I know in a cricket match, our passions run high, but I think of late, we are doing it with any event that, breaks out. And we are a matured democracy. I think we must begin to reflect that in our demeanor, in our actions, in our words, and which is not happening at the moment. It is good that we are debating on issues. It is good that, but we have not agreed to disagree. Debates do not mean that it should be a shouting match and we don't budge from our position. And that is exactly what is happening. It is always my way or the highway. So what happens? The real issue gets lost. So here we have a simple issue that an individual, Miss Kangana Ranaut in this case, has come out with her expression, her creativity, and made this film on emergency. So, and there are certain sections of the society who are opposing it, right? So, the debate which actually should happen is between those individuals and the filmmaker, right? Put them in the same platform. The nation should watch them put across their point of view, and there should be someone moderating that entire event. And so people would know instantly who makes sense and who is telling the truth, right? So there is an objection that this might create tension. So I would like to ask the individual who is saying this, for the largest democracy with, I think, the third or the fourth largest army and the security system that we possess, how dare anybody can raise any kind of a tension in this nation? Nobody can. So we are in one moment creating a controversy, then trying to stoke passions further. I think it's a dubious game that we play. So likewise, you talked about Calcutta. It's a simple case where horrific action has been done. Now the machinery should proceed further in a manner that the uh, the the perpetrators are brought to book, and brought to book in a manner that a strong message is sent, instead of coming out with such squeaky different voices that we keep on hearing. So I think in a nutshell, Anukriti, I would say that we as a nation should stand up and begin to reflect our maturity, more than simply displaying our passion. That should be left aside for, the Olympics and the cricket matches. But otherwise, saner heads should be heard. They should be heard more. And I'm sure reasonable action would follow. Reasonable and definite action.
Building on your point, sir, with due respect, building on your point, just like the senior heads should be heard, and they're always heard in a democracy like ours, they have a duty and a responsibility towards the masses of the country as well. However, the problem arises when the senior heads take their power too far and they tend to misuse it by imposing bans on pieces of art. And so I think it is important to remind the people of the country right now, including the senior heads, that this is not a documentary. This is not a textbook which Miss Ranawat has written. We must remember that it's a film. And despite it being a film based on a historic event which took place in our country, Miss Ranawat has done her due diligence. It's a movie which is not written by her. It's an entire team of writers, authors, and historians who have put their heads together with due diligence and accountability, and they have come up with a script. And history cannot be played with, history can neither be changed. Although Miss Ranawat might have presented historical facts with her interpretation and with her own unique artistic lens, but history has not been changed. My question is very simple. What's wrong in depicting Bhola and Shankar? What's wrong in depicting the way Miss Indira Gandhi ji was actually killed? History cannot be changed. Like you said, why can't we be adult enough to take the bullet on the chest? If something has happened in the past, it has happened in the past. And there should be freedom of expression and freedom of speech in the country as long as the truth is not getting distorted and as long as there is not this bad intention of deliberately polarizing the society further by misinforming them. And here we are fighting on this matter without having seen the entire movie. If once we watch the movie and we find out that history has been played with and there is misinformation or misrepresentation of facts, probably we could have a fight on this matter. But nobody has seen the real movie so far, and the senior heads have decided to already impose a ban on this movie. How far are we correct on this matter, sir?
All right. So, Anukriti, there are two parts to your question. I think for the first, I would say that all the motor mouths that we have in our country, I think there should be a censor board for them. I think on a regular basis, the tweets and the messages and the statements, they should be screened. They are the ones which should be rated as a single star or a no star. I think that is the kind of rank that they will make, considering the quality of statements which are being made. So I think our leadership needs to be censored. Number one, they cannot simply wake up in the morning and issue a statement left, right, and center and act the way they do. So we are definitely a responsible and a mature democracy, fully capable of uh, as you said, and as I reiterated, that taking the bullet on our chest, we are ready to accept it. It's a realistic feature of our nation. Emergency was imposed, you like it or not. And the new generation, the Z generation or the millennials, they need to know as to what happened. And although Mrs. Gandhi definitely apologized much after the emergency was imposed, and she did have had to pay a heavy price. She lost the elections later on. But the fact remains that since this is part of history, there is no harm in letting people know, especially the current generation. So the flow of information has to be there. The artistic right has to be respected. I think the motor mouths, then they are the ones who require censorship, and there should be a special board where ordinary citizens of this nation should sit. They should be the people deciding as to the right thing which needs to be said. I think all will be under control. We are stoked and provoked unnecessarily, and then of course the role of the media is to highlight the actions of the day, so they take over, and that is how things begin to spread, and people tend to react and overreact, and the WhatsApp industry takes over, and we simply go around in circles. So we should now come out with actionable plans, some uh, qualitative, real work, some solutions need to be found, because we are simply moving from one event to the next. So we are simply wading in waters which are muddied by controversies all over. So I think definite steps need to be taken, and I'm very sure that this controversy, which we talk about, will be blown away sooner than later, and we'll get to watch the film in its entirety. I think it's election time, and election is round the corner, so that is why the voices are rising in different ways, and people are reacting to it.
We can't ignore that fact either. We can't ignore that fact either. And I absolutely love the term that you use, the WhatsApp industry. Building on that, the SGPC, sir, the Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee, why are they in particular demanding a ban? So, is it not more right to say, okay, we are not going to watch the film, our supporters are not going to watch the film, but if you want to go and watch the film, with all due respect, go and decide for yourself whether you want to watch the film or not. You can't enforce your viewpoint on others. And the SGPC right now is taking a very strong stand on that. What are your thoughts on this matter, sir?
Absolutely. This is another organization which is a religious body, yet what it is simply doing is playing politics. So what we have done is we have mixed religion and politics all together. So that is why these words and the kind of words which are being repeated. So as you rightly said, we need to watch the film first. Nobody has watched the film, and a hue and cry is being created. We know who killed Indira Gandhi. There were people who killed Indira Gandhi. They belong to a definite sect. So, what is the harm in displaying that? So, again, honesty is one thing that our society needs to exhibit more. We cannot simply get away by saying that we are the oldest civilization and we are a
Oldest
very evolved
civilization and the
society.
biggest democracy, so much information
Yes,
about the country. And on the other hand, even a child who's reading a history textbook knows who assassinated Indira Gandhi ji. The same thing is probably going to be depicted in the movie made by Miss Kangana Ranaut. And here is the largest Sikh body, which is crying, which is crying hoarse over the entire matter and demanding for a
absolutely.
ban. The truth is out there.
Absolutely.
The proof of the pudding has already been given to the people by eating it. What's there to hide anymore? It is a very humorous situation.
Absolutely.
In a recent
Absolutely.
interview, in a recent interview when Kiran Jot Kaur, and I'm going to name her here, Kiran Jot Kaur from the same SGPC was asked about this matter. The lady was rather vehement about demanding a ban for the movie. And when Ranganathanji, who happens to be a prominent author and also a writer on the film, who has scripted certain parts, along with Adwaita Kala, who is also somebody who writes for cinema. When these people questioned her about her vehement, staunch stand on demanding a ban for the film, when she was asked this question, all that she said was, "We have seen the trailer, and there is a certain segment of the trailer where Sant Bhindrawala has been depicted speaking a particular dialogue, the dialogue being, 'You are more interested in votes, but we are interested in seeking Khalistan.'" Now, Kiran Jot Kaur has a stand on this. She says that we are demanding a ban, quote unquote, on the entire film based on that particular small segment of 2.5 minute trailer, because she says that Sant Bhindrawala was not in the picture during 1975. He appeared much later. On that front, the writers, the historians are asking her a very logical question, sir, and I would like to ask you about your thoughts on this matter. The writers asked her, one, ma'am, you've only seen the trailer. Two, as much as we know about this movie, the movie flits between 1970 and 1980. Even if Bhindrawala appeared much later, there could have been a particular scene in the movie where he is actually bringing up Khalistan. So you haven't seen the movie, you barely know anything about the movie through that 2.5 minute trailer, and here you are seeking a ban on the movie. You're seeking a ban on something which you don't know anything about. So, how strong is Kiran Jot Kaur's stand on this matter, sir? Because, in my opinion, the writers are very logical in asking her this question. On what solid grounds are you seeking a ban? What are your thoughts on this matter, sir?
So, Anukriti, the lady is definitely jumping the gun here. And Bhindrawale was no saint. We all know that. And the kind of end that he had was because of certain reasons, which was definitely propagating the idea of Khalistan. And I'm not surprised that he's been depicted saying the things that you just mentioned. Khalistan is something that is not a reality in India, but definitely words are being spoken, and we have faced Khalistani terrorism for a long time. In fact, Punjab, Haryana, they were in fact, many parts of Uttar Pradesh that I also live were affected during the Khalistani terrorism. And we even have Western nations with a soft heart, and not just a soft heart, but providing cover fire to the Khalistani elements. And we don't have a very friendly neighbor lending support, all kinds of supports to Khalistan so as to create trouble for India. So I think all the points, all the objections which are being raised are simply being raised politically. They definitely have a devious intention behind them, and but it is at the end of the day, it is the government of the day, the responsible powers to be, the heads of the nation. They are there to send out a strong message, and that strong message should be bugger off. Please stay away. This film will be released, and the people of this nation will decide whether to accept it or not to accept it. It is as simple as that. So, like they did it with Kashmiri Files, the same criteria has to be followed with this film. We cannot simply hide behind the fact that passions will run high and there'll be violence, and we have polls in different states. The situation is delicate, sensitive, whatever. We should not do that. We should always stand up like a proud, honest nation. That is how we'll grow, we'll mature as a nation. I think it's time that we showed our courage, our guts, the way Anukriti is doing it on her show.
Thank you so much for the kind words of encouragement, sir, which again brings me to 2 points here. One is the logical point, and one is the political standpoint over here, which I'll come to in just a short while. But the logical questioning is rather bang on. Based on a 2.5 minute trailer, based on a single dialogue by a particular character, the entire religious body, the biggest Sikh body of the country is demanding a ban. And when asked on media, on national media, on national television, here is this lady who says that there is one particular line spoken by one particular character in the trailer, which is absolutely misrepresenting the entire Sikh community because a certain particular character did not exist in 1975. When it is been made rather clear by the writers that the movie covers an entire decade from 1970 to 1980, and this particular character could have been assigned a particular dialogue in certain segment of the movie. If you have not watched the movie, then how can you comment on it, leave alone demanding a ban on it? So that's a rather comical situation, which again makes senior journalists like me laugh it off, just brush it off. Like, here we have prominent leaders from SGPC demanding a ban based on a particular dialogue from a particular trailer. I mean, how illogical could we get? How childish could we get when it comes to our demands? And moving on to the next, the political scenario. Sanjay Jha, who happens to be a prominent political analyst from our country, recently mentioned in one of his interviews that in this particular matter, the opposition, and by opposition, I'm referring to the Congress is just incidental. Although the Congress has demanded multiple bans on multiple films in the last 15 years, but for this particular film, Congress's presence and hue and cry is purely incidental because the CBFC is a government body and it is largely staffed by people who are in close proximity with the BJP, and the BJP is the ruling party, of course. The maker of the film, the actress in the film herself, is a BJP MP. It is her directorial debut. So the people who should be questioned more on this matter are the people from the BJP. And why are they dilly-dallying on this matter? Could it not be a clear case of political gains and filling up the vote bank? Because we all are aware as a nation that the Haryana elections are just round the corner. So, probably, according to Sanjay Jha, the Congress in this matter should be kept aside because its presence is purely incidental. And it's the BJP leaders, the bigwigs from that party, who should be answering these questions right now. Why are they dilly-dallying on this matter? Are they imposing the ban for now? Is it a temporary ban? Or are they pushing the release of the movie to a later date, considering the upcoming Haryana elections?
So Mr. Sanjay Jha is not here to defend himself, but I will also not hold my words. So I think it is pretty convenient on part of Congress to shy away from taking a stand on this issue because they know themselves they are on a sticky wicket so far as the Sikhs are concerned. How can we forget the 1984 statement of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi that when a big tree falls, the earth shatters, the earth shakes. So Congress hands are red with blood. They know that. That is why they are trying to avoid taking a position in this case and passing on the buck to the fact that Ms. Ranaut is a BJP MP and CBFC, of course, being under government control. It is their business and nothing to do with them. So, like I said, that was not a matured reaction from a leader of ours. So I'm not a big supporter of Congress party, but still he is a responsible, educated individual. And for such an individual, simply saying certain things based upon what his party wants him to say, I think this is childishness. This is not maturity. So we should avoid doing this. But this is like cheap politics, which kind of leads to some more comments from some other individual. who again has no standing at all. So I think more than CBFC, I think we need censorship for such devious individuals who operate without a spine. And I think likewise for organizations like the Gurudwara Committee, and because they know that this could be bad publicity for them, this could be bad publicity for the cause of Khalistan. This film could create impressions on the young minds, and they might begin to think about us differently. But this is where I think they are wrong. Uh, 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 Calling a spade is what we must really do. Honesty is a virtue, it is a value that we must begin to show, and not simply advertise by saying that we are one of the largest democracies and the oldest of civilization. We should reflect that. And I think it is time that we begin to reflect that maturity, whether it is Kangana Ranaut's emergency, the horrific case in Calcutta, anything for that matter.
I love the
We are a
phrase.
responsible nation.
I love this phrase that you use, cheap politics, because I was going to refer back. I was going to rewind and refer back to the horrendous Kolkata rape murder case again, because here we are keeping all the important matters aside and discussing a movie that we haven't seen so far and discussing whether or not to impose a ban. Again, a very humorous situation where, again, the parties are throwing the buck at each other, trying to play the blame game, trying to play the victim game again, victimizing themselves and valorizing themselves and then villainizing somebody else. This is a very humorous situation. Cut back to last month, the horrendous rape murder case, where again we saw parties, both the ruling and the opposing parties, passing the buck to each other, playing the blame game again, valorizing themselves, villainizing the other party, but just throwing the buck at each other, trying to play the blame game all the time, trying to bring the other party down, but never trying to find a positive, constructive solution. Whether it be a horrendous crime like the one which occurred last month with a female doctor, whether it be this completely senseless situation where we decide to leave the important matters aside behind us and we decide to discuss a piece of art which none of us have any idea about. These are two extremely polarized situations, and in both the situations, we decide not to take matters in our hand. We decide not to be sensible and mature about them. Instead, we decide to play the blame game, try to appear as valorous ourselves, and try to bring the other party down. Quite a sad situation, which brings me to the last question before we let you go, sir. Speaking of OTT, we can show any amount of violence and nudity on OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime. We can show violence, nudity without any disclaimer. What is the argument given by the government? We can do so because the people are watching this content from the safety and comfort of their homes. But when it comes to similar content for public exhibition, we have all these rules and layers that we apply on the masses of the country, and we decide to impose or not impose censorship or bans on content when it comes to public viewership and public exhibition. All these layers are applied, and we decide to take a decision on behalf of the masses. We decide to insult public maturity and public intelligence by imposing or not imposing a ban. Are we eventually moving towards OTT altogether, where artists, directors, filmmakers, producers can have that freedom of speech and expression and express themselves through their works of art, sir? Are we entirely moving towards OTT? Are these cinema theaters going to come to an end altogether?
Okay, so in your question lies the answer as well, because you have exposed the hypocrisy of our society. And rightfully, as you said, the OTT platform is providing us with all kinds of content, adult and not so adult. And there we are digesting all of that. So I think a lot of uh, 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 cry wolf was raised when computers was introduced, that there'll be widespread unemployment. And when our economy began to be opened, what would happen to the public enterprise? Public enterprise has thrived even more.
We welcome you back, sir, after this short commercial break. So, carrying on from where we left off, are we as a community moving completely towards the OTT platforms, or will these cinema houses stay for our upcoming generations to watch? Or are we going to be done with these places of public exhibition altogether?
Okay, so as I said, your question held the answer, because your question actually is pointing fingers towards the hypocrisy that we carry. So while all kinds of content is available on OTT, there's a hue and cry about something that is a fact, which what happened in history, and yet questions are being raised about it. So Anukriti, there's a long history of even these things happening in our country. Remember when computers were introduced way back in the previous century, there was a lot of hue and cry that, what will happen to the employment scene, and there will be no employment left. But nothing of that sort happened. We are thriving as a nation. There's no unemployment. No, I mean, computers are not responsible for taking away jobs. And likewise, when our economy opened up and there was a lot of privatization, there was a lot of concern about what will happen to the public sector. But nothing of that sort happened. And we adjusted, we moved on, and again, we are thriving as a nation. So likewise, for this situation, I think questions are raised, sensitivities are provoked, passions are raised, and there we have an event which blows up into our face with all kinds of negativity and caution and anger and emotions spreading all over and creating that ruckus. We need to come out of this. It's a vicious circle, event after event, situations after situations. We are falling into that trap, and we are simply holding needless, programs. Needless debates are taking place. People are divided and polarized, as you said. Whereas a simple, authoritative, firm, reasonable decision head can take care of all these things. So I think I've repeated myself twice, thrice. I think there's no harm in repeating again. Uh, our constitution guarantees us certain rights, but we also have responsibilities. I think, are we fulfilling those responsibilities? That is the first question that I would, ask myself. And there needs to be a filter of what we can say. Of course, there's liberty. Of course, there is freedom of expression. But yet, in public life, we need to behave like a mature nation. We need to behave like a reasonable nation. And we are fully capable of doing that. Many times I've seen it's our leadership that is failing us. People are not unreasonable. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived as a nation, despite the fact that we were attacked by outsiders. Britishers ruled us, different forces attacked us,
Absolutely.
tried to pull us down, and we have stood the test of time.
And
So I'm sure.
that's been the fundamental crux of my discussion so far. When we try to impose bans like these, and then when we try to insult the public maturity and intelligence, and when we try to insult the collective intelligence of the people of the nation by imposing a ban on them on their behalf, that's when we do major wrong by them. I have complete faith in the people of the country. I respect the people of India. And I feel that, like, I'm going to be pretty much like you, at the cost of sounding repetitive, we give very less credit to the people of India for their collective intelligence and for their collective maturity. Why can't we leave this decision onto them? Because people are, like you very rightfully said, people are sometimes much more mature and intelligent than the leaders themselves. And such decisions, especially with respect to art and speech and expression and cinema, such decisions should be left to the collective intelligence of the people of India. We highly insult them when we take away that right from the people, from the democracy, and we start imposing bans in the name of power and in the name of powerful, competitive, authoritative bodies. And which brings me to the last question. Adwaita Kala, who happens to be a prominent author and she also writes for Indian cinema, even she was asked this particular question. Are we moving eventually towards OTT platforms? Because it seems like over the period of time, the tolerance towards art has drastically diminished. All of us are opinionated, which is a good thing. It is good to have opinions. However, it's rather toxic to start taking decisions in a single handed fashion for the entire nation. And that is what we are watching right now with the film Emergency as well. So, when she was asked the same question, she quoted Madhur Bhandarkar's example. When Indu Sarkar was going to be released, he was literally held hostage by the people. He could not step out of his hotel, he could not step into his car. And there were all these, I mean, if you remember, it was all over national television. We had those dramatic visuals. It was almost filmy to watch a prominent director of the country being held hostage, again in the name of expression and in the name of cinema. But she being a right winger, she being a BJP supporter, she ends up now saying for Emergency that, hey, let's give BJP its due credit because Kangana Ranaut is pretty much like any other filmmaker for the BJP right now. She is not being meted out any special favors just because she is also a BJP MP. She is being treated like just any other filmmaker, just like Madhur Bhandarkar or any other filmmaker for that matter. No special favors for her. She is also approaching the BJP as a thorough professional and she is being dealt with accordingly. But again, we have these political analysts who are analyzing the politics of the country all the time. But apart from the fact that she is being treated just like any other filmmaker by the BJP, can we again ignore the fact that the BJP is eyeing its political gains and its vote bank in the name of the upcoming Haryana elections, sir? Can we ignore this fact?
Absolutely not. You're so very right in your analysis, Anukriti. And I think Advaita Kala is playing the devil's advocate here, but yet I do not agree with her. We need to show spine, and I think with the way that BJP comes across as a very different party, it should have taken the stand that we are not going to impose any kind of a censorship, and this film should hold. So again, all parties are leveling up and stooping to the level of playing to the vote bank politics, and in all of this, the nation suffers, Anukriti. So reels of time are wasted on discussing something which is so irrelevant and at the end of the day, plain and simply humorous. And so, regardless, as I said, I think our messages, our voices have become prominent thanks to the media, thanks to Twitter, X, different platforms that are available now, and people are expressing themselves. So I think we should take the lead in answering to the powers to be. And I'm sure I don't think the films are going anywhere. The artistic expression is going anywhere. Of course, OTT has become big. It has become huge. But I think even the alternate cinema will definitely survive. We are in a fluid situation, uh, but things will fall right, and we'll see sense in the larger picture game. So I'm very confident, and I say this because I believe in the wisdom of my nation. And I think these small nuances, these small pricks will go away eventually. And we'll begin to behave like a mature, responsible democracy.
Well, as a journalist, I can only hope that such conversations and such discussions with people like you can raise this question in the minds of the democracy. The question being, cannot political gains be achieved and cannot vote banks be filled through pure merit? The question still arises, why can't the political parties of our democracy finally start to walk their talk and fulfill the promises made by them during the election time? That could be one healthy way of filling the vote bank and gaining political mileage or leverage over other parties rather than playing childish blame games at every available opportunity, big or small. I hope that such a question arises in the minds of the people of India through such insightful conversations with people like you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on our talk show. And we look forward to many more opportunities of having conversations with you in the future as well.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.